Hi there, everyone. This is Fluffbyte, specifically Punkbyte and Infantabyte, and we're gonna read you a very new visual novel that we came across a couple of days ago. It's free on itch.io, so we definitely encourage you check it out. The creators' links will be in the description below. They go by I Have Llamas, and she is a game dev and visual artist. This, as far as we know, is her second game, and it's about self-discovery. We played a portion of it, but didn't finish it because it was very emotional for us, and we know we wanted to record it, so we figured we might as well finish it for the first time in this Let's Play. Especially because we don't know what type of emotional state we're going to be in by the end, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And also, for that reason, the only trigger warning I can say right now until we're adding a few edits is just going to be existentialism, because we feel like a lot of folks will resonate with this, and especially if you resonate with the content that we tend to cover, then it will probably resonate with you too. And for that reason, we're definitely gonna say if you're feeling in like a fairly dark place, maybe this isn't the time to watch this Let's Play, just because it pulled out a lot of strong feelings about like self-actualization. And so the trigger warning, as far as we know, is only going to be that. So, as far as we know, no blood, no gore, no death, or anything like that, like most of the games we cover. Just soul searching. Okie dokie. We're gonna start. For as long as I could remember, there was something different about me. Something off? No, not off or different. Something was missing. A part of me was missing. I was lacking what everyone else seemed to have. The older I became, the more the gap grew. The more evident the difference became to me. The harder it was to hide. I thought there was something wrong about me. I was convinced I was broken. The longer I stayed at home, the more suffocating it became with each passing day. The more I was reminded of myself, my true self. The only hope I held on to was the possibility that my missing piece was somewhere out there beyond my tiny world. With a quiet goodbye, I left to look for it. I've traveled for a long time, walked across endless fields, riddled with craters, sailed across waters that have engulfed great civilizations. Everywhere I went, I witnessed Mother Nature reclaiming the bits and pieces that were taken from her by our ancestors. Yet, amongst these ruins, not a piece of me was found. It's hard to look for something you're not entirely sure of yourself. When you don't know what to expect, you start creating your own versions of it. And you hold on to these expectations. I've become more doubtful the further I've traveled. But I've come too far to give up. The reason was decent enough for me to keep going forward. Perhaps it was more shame and guilt than a sunk cost fallacy. I watched the sky slowly begin to shift from afternoon to evening as the sun prepared to set. The temperature had dropped quickly. A cool breeze made its way through the forest as the tree canopy danced around me. There were so many times I wanted to give up and accept my fate, especially on those long nights where you drift from thought to thought and ask yourself, what exactly am I doing? Is there any point to this? Is there any point to anything I do? I still wondered. I stared at the sky for a while longer. The clouds above me drifted lazily across the deep blue, tinged with pink. Maybe, if tomorrow doesn't come to pass, the sight of the last bit of day wouldn't have made for a bad memory. But that was something I kept telling myself every day. And that day had yet to come. Hey! Traveler ahead! Please wait up! An unfamiliar voice pulled me from my thoughts immediately. Turning my head, I could see another traveler, a bit further behind me, trying to flag me down with their large, billowing cloak. She waves a frantic hand towards me, trying to catch my attention. I don't know if it was out of curiosity or pity, but I found myself slowing to a stop reluctantly. A look of relief crossed her face as she hurried to catch up to me. Thank you for stopping. My legs are just about to give out now. Whew. Let me catch my breath. Whew. Sorry about that. Let me introduce myself. Greetings, fellow traveler. I'm Amika. What's your name, traveler? You can just call me Wanderer. That's a cool name. It has a nice air of mystery to it. Dear Wanderer, I called after you because I was concerned. Concerned? Concerned for what? For you, of course. Are you lost? You're a long ways away from the net civilization. It was a genuine question, considering the look on her face. Despite her cheerful and upbeat appearance, there was something else hidden behind her eyes. Dread. Well, not really. I'm looking for something. Wow, some soul searching all the way out here? I commend your efforts, Wanderer. What I'm looking for might not be in the most obvious places. It may not even be visible. I see. If you don't need anything from me, I'll be going now. Take care. Wait, the sun is going to set soon and tonight's going to be real chilly. I've been out here for a long time. I can take care of myself. It'll be faster to set up camp with 2 people. Plus, I know the forest out here like the back of my hand. And, this is my first time traveling alone. I've only been out here for a week. I'd really appreciate any pointers and tips, she said, nervousness wavering in her voice. What do you say? Well, I wasn't much for talking to others or being social. I felt like I'd given up on trying to connect with others, out of tiredness and anxiety. But, judging by her virtue, my eyes drifted to the relic hovering by her head. You could tell a lot about a person just by studying their virtue. However, they were abstract. You could pin down some aspects of someone's personality, but you could never get the full picture. Hers were 2 diamond-shaped figures floating on the left side of her head, which almost looked like a wing. I felt mine brushing up against my arm under my cloak, as if reminding me. I swallowed. I don't think she means any harm. Plus, she seemed quite anxious about something. I was quite uneasy throughout my first month out in the bushes. I was quite uneasy throughout my first month out in the bushes. All beginners were. I'm not heartless. I do feel bad, but maybe it was because I saw a similar spark in her eyes when I first began. I could give her some pointers so that she couldn't be as easily discouraged from continuing her travels. Then I'll leave first thing in the morning. Alright, where to then? She beamed, immediately almost in relief. The fear in her voice and eyes dissipates slightly. Your timing is just impeccable, my purple companion. If we head a bit east, there's this perfect spot for camp. You'll see. I trailed a step behind Namika as she led the way. As we walk, I don't think there was ever a minute when she stopped talking, which I suppose was a good thing to keep her mind off whatever worries she had. She kept rambling non-stop as if everything was interesting and worthwhile to point out. I only gave her curt, one-word responses as she continued her tirade on every single wildlife found here. In a way, I was a bit envious of her. To be so enamored by every single little detail around her, it was a bit harder for me to distract my mind. I could even feel it now, clawing at the back of my head, whispering to me to take off. Go home. It's too late for you. It sneered. I shook my head, willing for the silence to take over my mind again. I wasn't sure how long we walked for, but I could feel my legs ready to give out. Daylight was quickly burning away. How much farther? The trees began to clear away until I could see the entire sky, alight in a beautiful gradient of orange, pink, and purples. There was a little lift to her voice as she said the two words. We're here. Mika stepped aside from me. The view before us immediately took me back. Perched on a large cliff above, we had a beautiful view of the valley below us. All of its rolling fields, stretches of endless forest, sprouting and overtaking the rubble, produced a mosaic of concrete and green. It's beautiful, isn't it? Everything just seems so small. My sister used to take me camping up here every summer to watch the sunset and stars. I used to be so focused on the small details of the hike, never really grasping the full picture of our surroundings. And then, when we broke through the tree clearing and stood in this exact spot, I realized how small and irrelevant everything became. The small piece of the world we know of is really only a fraction of this tiny planet. I thought if I blinked, I would miss everything. That's when I realized how fragile we are. We only live for a moment and then we're gone. Like these ruins of the old world. Oh! We're losing daylight. Let's get our camp going. I let Amika's words settle into my mind as we built the fire pit. The universe was too big for us to comprehend, and the world as we know it was minuscule in comparison. Our lives were too short-lived, and we only had one chance at it. Yet, why do we try so hard to make ourselves so miserable? We made quick work and managed to get a decent fire going before the sun disappeared under the horizon. With a drink in hand, we silently watched the flames crackle, admiring our handiwork. Amika broke the silence first. Wow, look at the sky. I haven't been back here in so long, but it's still pretty as ever. They say the stars are travelers who've passed on and left behind their wisdom to guide new travelers back home. Quite poetic, no? Yeah. A bit bittersweet, too. Hmm. Hmm? You're not much of a talker, are you? Not really, I suppose. I shrugged. Another curt answer. Small talk wasn't really my thing. Carrying a conversation was hard when you don't know what to say most of the time. She smiled, which was odd. It wasn't the reaction I was expecting. Not the kind I usually got. I think it's better to fill a conversation with silence than struggling to find something to say if you can't carry it. Silence in conversation shouldn't be a negative thing. I like to think of it as reflection, or being mindful. Sometimes you just need a moment to think. Sometimes there's just nothing needed to be said. Sometimes people just need an ear to be heard. You're very wise, Amika. You must have been through a lot, haven't you? I guess you could say that. When you have big responsibilities, you learn to grow up quicker. The silence crept up on us again. I took a sip from my cup to fill my short response. Hey, Wanderer? The nervousness in her voice returned. Remember I said I called after you because I was concerned? Yeah. Well, it wasn't entirely because you've traveled so far out here, but because there's something strange going on in this forest. I think people have gone missing out here. Huh? What do you mean? I've only been walking through the forest for 3 days, and I kept seeing these pages flying above the trees. And I thought it was someone littering again until I found a page stuck between some rocks, tucked next to a tree. It was a torn missing poster. I didn't recognize the person staring back at me or know anything about them, but I felt really sad by seeing how happy they looked in their photo. I was gonna bring it with me in case anyone else knew them, but the page suddenly crumbled away in my hands like dust. I kept finding more pages the further I went, but each time I tried to take it with me, they just broke apart. I've asked other people, but they haven't seen a single poster. I don't know. Maybe I'm already going crazy already. I'm not sure how you guys travel alone just fine. I always feel like something in the dark will leap out at me if I don't have light, or if my back's turned, and the weird posters are not helping. I don't recall seeing any papers lying in the forest either, but that's rather strange. Still, her words chilled me colder than the air around us because it sounded eerily familiar. I knew I heard of random disappearances somewhere before. Was it from back home? How have I forgotten already? My mind kept drawing blanks. I couldn't remember at all. Thanks for the heads up. It's better to be cautious than careless, especially when you're traveling alone. How do you do it? Does it get easier? What, traveling? Like a lot of things, it only gets harder before it gets easier. The hardest part is always the beginning. Waking up in the morning and realizing you have to go through the ordeal all over again as every inch of your body and mind just aches. Your mind will beg for you to quit. It will do anything to rationalize why you should turn around. Trying to find that perseverance to ignore it is the most important. Once you get over that hill, it gets easier. You get into the flow, and before you realize it, it's second nature. Having a little faith in yourself goes a long way. It's what one of the climbers returning from Valor told me. She perked slightly at the mention of Valor as she nodded. I see. I've never really minded traveling alone. As a matter of fact, I prefer to do so alone. But you're never really alone out here. You've got the sun, moon, and stars guiding you. Even if you can't see them, they're still there. And look around us. We're sitting on a great city that's used to be bustling with life. It was probably brimming with so many cultures we could spend lifetimes learning about. Imagine the lives they had, the interactions they held. They were like us, yet they're gone and we're not. Quite surreal, no? Hundreds of years later, we walk on the same ground as them, but new life has taken their place. Life never really went away. I don't remember who told me this, but whenever I think about these ruins and their past, I feel a bit less lonely. I'm sure you'll accomplish what you seek if you put your mind to it. Have confidence in yourself. Hypocrite. The voice laughed quietly. She cracked a smile, lifting her gaze to the sky. I see. There used to be so much life here, long gone, yet some traces still remain. And we carry on the knowledge of their existence as if they never really disappeared. I've never really thought of it that way. I see there's still much for me to learn. Thank you very much, friend. That was very enlightening. I will keep your words close so that I may reach the summit of valor at the end. You're traveling to climb the mountain? Yep. There are some things I need to make peace with myself that I hope are not too late. I nodded. Everyone had their own reasons for traveling. Many made it their goal to conquer valor, to really push themselves to prove their worth. Some just thrived off the adventure, and others, like us, just needed to find ourselves somewhere amidst this decaying world. Wanderer, will you listen to my story? There are some things on my mind I want to get out. To a complete stranger? I don't sense any ill intentions from you. You could have turned me away when I was petrified of staying alone in the forest at night, but you stayed and even encouraged me. Even when drifters travel on arduous journeys alone, they're always more than happy to help one another. I've always respected that. So no, not to a stranger, but from one drifter to another. Well, alright. If you have things that need to be said, I won't stop you. Thank you. You're a kind soul. Let's see. Where should I begin? Where else but from the beginning, right? Very astute, my purple companion. From the beginning, then. I'm Amika Ekarade of Valevra, candidate for the Luminary. Our village seeks a new leader to continue leading Valveria towards the future. So, one of the selected few will take his place. See, unlike where you are from, the role of leadership, the Luminary, is not often inherited by blood or succession, but determined by one's virtue, like many other roles in our society. Her hand goes to her head, hovering near the two diamond-like shapes lingering above her. They look like a set of wings that have yet to be carved and polished, but the idea behind them was still there. Virtues were peculiar things. By the age of when a person develops their morality and their sense of self, their virtue, a physical manifestation of personality appears. It can take the shape of anything and change throughout a person's lifetime. It is always fluid, never one thing or another, never stays constant, because people are confusing and complex things. Honestly, even though I grew up in Valveria and love the town with everything, it's kinda like family. You love them despite their flaws, but sometimes they can be unbearable. Sometimes you just fall out of love. I can't agree with its traditions and norms fully. Perhaps I have my sister to thank for my rebelliousness. A flicker of emotion crossed her face too quick for me to discern. It wasn't a happy one. Your virtue must be pure to be a great leader. Wings are an important symbol in Valveria, so they're sought after for candidates. What happens if no one has a wing virtue? They'll find the next best fitting virtue. It sounds like a heavy burden. They're putting a lot of responsibility on someone by virtue and not experience. You're right. It's rather unfair on the chosen successor, isn't it? But potential candidates were chosen at a young age and monitored carefully so we knew becoming the next luminary was a possibility in our future. However, any drastic changes to their virtue disqualified them, even if they shifted back to something luminary worthy and stayed constant. The core believes the stability and consistency of good character since childhood makes a good leader. That sounds like unnecessary stress. Nobody is one thing or another. People are complex. Yes. The system isn't quite perfect, is it? My sister actually was going to be the definitive successor. We all knew. Selfless, empathetic, caring. A true model Bavarian. She carried her burdens quietly, never showing less than a smile. I think that was her downfall. She never told anyone anything and kept how she really felt locked away until they couldn't be shut out anymore. But you're right. Even if we knew we could potentially be the leader, it was still incredibly stressful. My sister was able to shield me from most of it. We didn't have much of a childhood, so she wanted me to enjoy my youth at least. I didn't need to worry over anything else she would tell me. I didn't need to worry over anything else she would tell me. On the outside, she was a role model Valverian, but at the end of the day, when she went home, she would just go straight to her room and lock herself in until next morning, only to do it all again. At the time, I didn't really understand. Didn't understand how unreasonable the responsibility they put on her was. Not until I was her age. She was so young, barely an adolescent, ready to begin her own path, but her entire life was already determined before she could even decide for herself. She trailed off, letting her words hang bitterly in the biting cold. It didn't seem like she wanted to say anymore. The night seemed to still. The crickets had stopped chirping. The crickets had stopped chirping, and the breeze had gone quiet. You don't have to say any more if you don't want to. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Wanderer. I just need to collect myself again. Sorry, I wasn't able to finish my story. You're so kind. Thank you for listening to me. Her eyes brightened again. I feel like a weight has been lifted from my shoulders a bit. Like I can breathe a little better now. It's been hard, hasn't it? Yeah, it has been. While I don't understand fully, nor have I been in your situation, I can empathize with you, Amika. You've done well to keep your head held high and continue forward. You can keep smiling. I'm a bit envious. You have every right to be proud of yourself, too. It's not easy to just leave home to search for something. I didn't really have much of a choice, unfortunately. She tilted her head. What do you mean? The topic was bound to come up eventually. I knew, but it never got easier each time I tried to explain. It was just so tedious when people would just disregard what I say afterwards. For the first time in a while, I felt comfortable enough to talk about it. It was either leave home to find the truth, or stay as a lie. Lying to the ones close to you is supposed to make you feel terrible. What surprised me instead was how easy the lies came to me as breathing. But as easy as it was to lie, the harder the realization hit me when I needed to understand that I could never be myself for the rest of my life. It was a difficult decision, but I decided to leave soon after. I don't know if I'll go back. But they'll be looking for you. They'll be worried. I know. But at least they'll have a perfect image of me without knowing what I truly am. I love them, but I don't know how they will react. I don't know if they love me enough to accept me truly. It's selfish, but at least they loved a version of me, even if it's false. If there were people who could care about someone like me, even if it's a version of me, then I think that's enough for me. At the very least, my love for them wasn't a lie. You said before you were looking for something. What are you looking for? The singularity. It was only a rumor travelers shared amongst each other. A mythical entity that could grant your deepest desire when you had nowhere else to turn to. At a price. I didn't believe it at first because it sounded ridiculous. But then, as the fruitless months went on and my virtue broke away, I had to accept the hard truth. I still couldn't come to terms with it. The singularity? But isn't that only a rumor? A tale to entertain children? A rumor or not, it's all I have to go on. Better than giving up and holding myself up somewhere until I die. I'm tired, Amika. I want to feel something other than brokenness and shame. To chase after such a thing, you must be at your wit's end. I lifted my cloak, letting my virtue drift out from under. Compared to yesterday, I could see the new shards had broken off. On cue, a lone fragment fell into the grass quietly. It's all I have to go on. So why not take it, right? Amika's eyes Amika's eyes widened in horror. A mix of Unreadable emotions crossed her face. Her cup was trembling in her grasp, and she couldn't seem to stop her hands from shaking. Your virtue, she stammered. I nodded as I pocketed the piece. It breaks away little by little each day, and all I can do is pick up the pieces and hope it lasts another day. It's a bit surreal watching yourself just die slowly, bit by bit. The very essence of what makes you, you, aside from DNA, crumbling away until you become nothing. I smiled wryly. I used to think that maybe if I retrieved enough shards, it would put itself back together. Wouldn't that be nice? One whole, completed virtue. It took her a moment to compose herself again. I couldn't blame her for reacting the way she did. Watching someone's virtue crack or shatter was something you could never forget. The sound of someone's life just reduced to a sound that grafts itself into your mind. Witnessing the pieces of them strewn all over the ground. Nothing more than debris. Wanderer, how did this happen? How did it get this bad? I felt like an outcast for a very long time. It's hard to feel normal when you're constantly reminded by those around you of what you seem to lack. I look up from the fire, and my eyes meet Amika's. All I could see was worry, guilt, and pain etched on her face. I still can't explain it well. It's hard to explain something that not even you can understand that well. Hard to try to explain it from others' perspective because I understand it even less. You know how we've been told all our life that there's someone out there that will resonate with your virtue? That you'll feel this spark. And when you come together, you'll feel whole. You'll feel human. Because to love means to be human. And if you can't love, well, I've waited my whole life for this spark. And at this point, I don't think it'll happen. And it's not that I haven't found them. I just can't feel it. It's not there for me. I try to reach for it, but all I grab is nothing. Wouldn't that mean I'm perpetually incomplete? Broken? Wrong? I've been called cold, heartless. I'm not a person to them. I'm an error, and I don't fit anywhere. Even the outcasts feel that connection. I'm an outlier of the outliers. But it's a bit funny. I don't feel like I can love any less. I just can't love them in that way. But in other ways. It's odd, isn't it? That's why my virtue is in shambles. I don't even know what I am. And when I tried to tell my family subtly, when I asked that one word, the look in their eyes, the flash of suspicion in their expression. Why? That's just how it is, they said. That's how it's always been and should be. I couldn't breathe. Such a nonchalant sentence made me question my entire existence. I guess I just didn't exist. I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. Your parents had no right to say that to you. It's not like they knew any better. I can't really fault them completely. That's why you hold on to the singularity. Yes. I hope it takes me away. Somewhere far, far away. Maybe a place where I can be normal. You're not broken. I am, and I have been. That's only what they've told you to think. And it's become a reality. My virtue is proof. You're not broken because you don't love. You're breaking yourself because you can't love yourself. You're much more than that tiny aspect of you. You said it, didn't you? People are complex. This doesn't define you as a whole. You know? I think it's ridiculous that we put so much emphasis on needing others to love ourselves and our flaws that we forget the most important love. The most important love of all is self-love. Before we can love, we should learn to appreciate ourselves. But we're never taught how to. It's nice to be able to have someone to care for you, to share close moments with, but needing to find this other you to be happy is completely untrue. You can make yourself happy. There's no one else that can make you whole but you. You're not broken, Wanderer. You're you. You're human. And it will be okay. She smiled genuinely at me. It was a gentle, soft smile. I didn't think I deserved such a smile. I didn't know why it felt so hard to breathe. I felt my throat constrict. I lowered my gaze to the grass. Thought I couldn't cry. I was overcome with an inexplicable wave of emotions stirring in my chest. Emotions that I thought had long been forgotten during this journey. I couldn't remember the last time I felt this way. When I felt like an actual person that mattered. Thank you. Thank you. No one has ever told me that before. No one has ever told me that it was okay to be me. You're very kind, Amika. I think it's a bit of a shame, but you would have made for a great leader. Thank you for listening to me. I'm super flattered. I've been super worried that I wouldn't be fit to lead others. Chances are, I think I'll be the next luminary. Huh? But didn't you say that my sister would be the next luminary? She was a good candidate. Unfortunately, she no longer walks in this world. Oh. My condolences. I didn't know. It's fine. It happened a long time ago. It's a big role to fill. I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure if I could not only become a worthy leader and match Amelie. It was our tradition to sneak out of town and climb up to this perch to watch the stars in the summer. I got so excited every time I woke up to my sister shaking my shoulder with a devious smile on her lips. It was one of those handful of nights where we could just be ourselves and not have a care in the world. It was one of the few nights where my sister looked relaxed, where my sister could be my sister. So when my sister woke up 6 years ago to watch the stars, when my sister woke me up 6 years ago to watch the stars, I was pretty excited. She smiled at me as usual, but it seemed a bit strained. I didn't think much of it because we laughed and bantered all the way to the cliff like we always did. Then we watched the stars and talked about everything. And while I was talking about how I wanted to leave the village one day and explore the land, she just bursted into tears, full on sobbing. I thought she was crying because she would never see the world for herself, but I quickly learned that that wasn't the case. That day, under the moonlight which shone so brightly on her golden hair, when her cape fell away, her once elegant wings had fallen apart into broken fragments and shifted into a mass of pieces. My eyes drifted to my virtue. A sudden twinge of guilt overcame me for stirring up unpleasant memories. It would explain why she reacted so strongly. But she wasn't crying because her beautiful virtue had eroded, but because she couldn't protect me anymore from the responsibilities I had to face as the new future luminary. She had fought to keep her virtue in check, to make sure she would be the successor. But my sister, always the good person, couldn't keep the lie up. So she broke, letting all the walls she had put up in her heart and her virtue just cracked. We could run, she said. We could get away and discover the world together. We have a chance now. Yes, we could have. It was what I wanted so badly. But life's not so straightforward. The cost of freedom is built on sacrifices of others. The burden will only fall to someone else. And I was convinced that maybe I could make a difference for Bavaria. Not going with her was one of my biggest regrets. And I still think about it every day. It's just those what ifs. Maybe we could have had more time together. Maybe if we could have had more time together, maybe she'd still be alive. Maybe if she found the singularity. I told her to go without me, somewhere far. And maybe come 20 or more years from now, when she comes back, she'd be welcomed warmly. Maybe. That's the kind of leader I want to be, where you can simply be yourself and always have a home to return to, where we won't be blinded by tradition. Obviously, though, the dream never came true. 3 months later, they found her body at the base of the valley's tallest cliff. They said her body had been there for weeks. There wasn't a note or anything. What was left of her was salvaged and cremated. They didn't even let me see her. I think she was delirious because of her virtue and homesick. She wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have. She always did like the sky, wanted to fly. She reached too far and fell. I guess she did manage to fly for a bit, one last time. I just keep hoping she was in a state where she couldn't feel pain anymore. So, I snuck out and took her ashes with me. I wanted to reach the top and spread them amongst the stars, where she always dreamed of being, where she can guide future travelers with her wisdom. Then I'll carry on the dream as the next luminary. But I didn't know if I can feel her footsteps. I just don't know. She's half of me, yet I'm barely a fraction of her. You don't need to be anyone other than Amika. You may be related by blood, but you're your own person with your own thoughts and beliefs. My parents were strict and held on to old views, but they never tried to compare me with my siblings. We all have our own limits and differences, even if they went against their beliefs. I don't think your sister would want you to carry on as her, or anyone but yourself. You carry her on in your heart. And you carry on that wish so it becomes a reality. She would certainly smile down at you from the stars. You're right. Emily wouldn't want to see me like this. Less wallowing and more putting your heart out and mind to it. Less wallowing and more putting your heart out and your mind to it. She would say to me, Your actions show more than words. That's a good mindset. Also, not to spoil the heartwarming mood, aren't you being a bit irresponsible by sneaking out and risking your life to climb a mountain as the next leader? Yeah. It was selfish and reckless of me. I just wanted to accomplish something I put my mind to. I wanted to make peace with myself and Emily too. We're both a bit irresponsible, aren't we? I guess we are. I wonder. What do you think virtues really are? Why do they appear after the meteors came? I'm not sure. I haven't really thought that deeply about them. They've just existed and we never really gave them a second thought. Because we just assumed they were normal, like many other things we take for granted. I wonder if they're a gift from the old world. People back then were attached to materialistic items. As one last parting gift, they left us with personal relics created from remnants of the meteors. Why is it that even though the old world's long gone, we still hold on to some of their virtues, values? Are we really trapped in a cycle of repeating the past? I mean, look at us, still calling ourselves humans. Our appearances diverge from our ancestors hundreds of years ago. It must be human nature to keep falling into cycles because of our stubbornness and selfishness. But it's that same stubbornness that keeps us going. Even after the world was left in ruin, our ancestors persevered and adapted. You're right. If we can feel, understand, empathize, create culture? If we can decide for ourselves, are we not human enough? I hope to come to terms with that myself. I think you're just enough, Wanderer. I hope you'll see that yourself eventually when you find the singularity. When I reach the summit, I'll cheer for you from the top. Hopefully, you'll hear me across the forest. And I'll be supporting you from wherever I'll be, Luminary Amika. She laughed. A laugh that could light up the entire night sky, brighter than a dying fire. Surely it would have made the stars jealous. I hope she would keep that smile and laughter for years to come as she grew into a leader. Maybe if I kindled it for a bit longer and brought her some words of comfort, perhaps my life wasn't all a waste. Oh my, it's gotten quite late, huh? How long have we been chatting for? Where'd all the time gone? I feel so much better talking about the things I had on my mind for so long. I couldn't really tell anyone in Valveria, which was suffocating. It must be fate that we met. I looked up at the sky. I was gonna tell her that I didn't quite believe in fate, but I felt my mind beginning to drift elsewhere. You okay, Wanderer? You're looking a bit pale. Yes, just a bit tired. Perhaps we can call it a night then? Astute as always, my purple friend. We have a long day ahead of us tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning then. Good night, Wanderer. Good night, Amika. I watched her disappear into the darkness to retire to her tent. I wanted to savor the last bit of night before it ended. I didn't move from my spot on the log. I wanted to savor a lot of things before it was too late. But I couldn't remember so many of the things I wanted to hold on to. I could feel it. A deep, instinctual feeling at my core. It's too late. It whispered in my head again. You've forgotten too much. You are not you anymore. My name. What was my name? Did I start using an alias because I had forgotten? Or because I wanted to forget? No doubt. The reason why I had forgotten was because of the state of my virtue. The rhythmic crackling of the fire made me feel drowsy. My eyelids felt heavier as I struggled to keep my eyes open. And I could feel the world beginning to tilt a little. The ground spun slowly beneath my boots as I struggled to keep myself upright. The trees around me kept spinning, and the fire was wrapping and twisting in ways it shouldn't have been. However, no matter how many times I tried to blink, the world wouldn't return to normal. I watched the sky teeter for a moment before feeling my body lurch backwards. The last thing that appeared in my blurry vision before I fell was my ruined virtue, as if mocking me. I had run out of time. Yet, I hadn't even said goodbye to Amika yet. Hadn't told her how much I really appreciated her for listening. That I would try to learn to love myself even if it was just a little. But I was glad I could be honest with something before. I was glad that I could be honest with someone before I left. I was glad I wasn't a liar until the end. I felt the cold from the ground permeate my back. My consciousness was fuzzy. I was somewhere in that place of waking, in the moments before you fall asleep. I saw my virtue shatter in front of me. The fragments that rained down into the grass seemed to shine brighter than the stars. It was a shame that I couldn't bring myself to accept me in the end. If I could make someone else smile, if I could lessen some of the sorrow in their heart, then maybe I could have learned to love myself. Good night, Amika. Perhaps fate was real. And if so, it led us to meet. Then, I was happy that I was found. Good night, little wanderer. To be continued. That's all for the Game Jam version. Thank you so much for playing. Oh my fudging. That was a lot. So we now realize the triggers that are gonna be at the beginning of this video. Before we end, we do want to talk about it a little bit. From the parts that we saw, we kind of figured that it might be a little bit of an allegory for queerness, but we didn't want to project too hard before we found out. And now it's very, very hard to not see Wanderer as A-spec. I mean, how could you not? If you don't know, a big thing in the Ace Arrow community is the phrase, "you are not broken." Because so many people think of sexual or romantic attraction as integral to being human. And a lot of people don't understand. And even with the acceptance that is available nowadays, there are so many people who gaslight A-spec people and say, you just haven't found the right person, or there are people who do corrective sexual assault. There are people who do so many terrible things to try to force people into this box. And it's fudging terrible. And it's sad. And this world where your actual, not even just your personality, but your being is reflected in this thing that other people can see. And not having anyone tell you that you are okay being you, and that just hurting yourself is something we can really, really identify with in more ways than just the aspectness, but we've known other aspect people and they've struggled. Um, I mean, in the general sense, there's also just the queerness part of people think that your life is gonna look a certain way. The nuclear family, getting married, getting a house, having 2.5 kids. It's definitely a big thing for being an American. And queer people, all kinds of queer people, our existence kind of flies in the face of all that, even more so than just the fact that that shouldn't be, even for cishet people, what their life should be. It shouldn't be on a track, you know? And these themes are just so fudging powerful. And when we were playing this game before recording, we stopped right before Amika started telling her story, because we felt like it was gonna be really hard, and our voice was cracking, and we were starting to tear up before she started her story. And so, again, we were like, if we finish this, we might not have the energy, we might not have the spoons to do it again. And we know that we have a lot to do this week, so it's not like we'll be able to just dive back in so easily, even days from now. Though, we will definitely keep an eye on this, because we want to see where it goes. You know, we love supporting small creators. And just this touches us so much. We didn't expect the suicide themes. But even just being depressed and coming off as like really happy, but trying to hide the parts of you that are suffering is something that is very, very relatable. It's definitely the way that we used to be in flesh space. Though now, with content creation and stuff, and isolation and whatnot, we don't talk to a lot of people in flesh space. Yeah, and so we feel a lot like Wanderer in that regard, but more like Amika online. It's weird. And this is why we love games like this. We hope that you'll play this for yourself. We'll hope that you will look up this creator, support her. Didn't know this was a game jam game. On itch.io, there's this thingy that says like what it was like if it was made in a certain type of game jam or a contest, and we thought it was a contest or a challenge, not necessarily a game jam. That was like, I want to make a story even though I can't write. And oh gosh, there might be a few typos in there, but the story is powerful and the writing really, really, really resonates. I believe that I Has Llamas can definitely write. Definitely check out their art. They have an Instagram, and she has an Instagram and a what's it called? A DeviantArt. gosh, this is so powerful. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Um, if we don't make another video before The Last of Us 2 essay, then that's just how it is. Spoons are fragile. We hope that you'll continue to go on this journey with us, because part of the reason we make content is to make a difference. I definitely identify with Wanderer's sense of, at least if I can make someone smile and make them feel good and push them to do their best, then maybe my life was worth something, you know, right? But obviously we're trying to work on our mental health as well. We're not giving up. We're trying to push. But we're glad that virtue still exists in real life, because we do not want to know what ours will look like in recent days and weeks. It's really nice to be able to express ourselves online and whatnot, more so than we ever have before becoming a content creator, or at least taking it seriously. We're also glad that we didn't stream this. This was really hard. We already cried on stream recently, so I mean, it's not that big a deal, but being able to take our time and not micromanage as much was helpful. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this game, on this story. Please comment if the mood hits you. Thank you so much for watching and listening. So please take care of yourselves, as we will try to do the same for ourselves.